Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus Grand Final edition. Great to be with you as we have a look at what I think is a dream Grand Final for 2023. The Panthers looking to make it 3 in a row and the Broncos looking to lift the trophy for the first time since 2006. We'll get a comprehensive look through the eyes of Phil Gould as to who might be winning on Sunday night. Is Gus making a comeback to Origin? Dally M's tonight as well. Some thoughts on that. Plus we've got a great grand final in the NRL W. Can the Knights lift the trophy again, or will the Titans spoil the party? We've got a state championship game as well and some Ask Us questions. Phil Gould, what a week. How are you?
Good, thank you, Mathew. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Do you get any nostalgic memories in grand final week?
No, nothing really. No, not really. Nothing, no nostalgia. It's
No?
best. It's a great week.
It is a great week. And it's the grand final, I think most people would have, I reckon for the back half of the year, we kind of thought we were heading this way. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. They've been the two best teams for some time. So they've got the grand final I think everyone was expecting, and it's probably the grand final we all want to see. Broncos done a great job over the last few years, haven't they, to resurrect themselves and certainly deserve their place in this big one.
They won the spoon in 2020.
Yeah, mitigating circumstances, but, you know, it's 3 years ago. Been a big turnaround. A lot of these players were there then. Probably a little bit, probably a little bit too young, but certainly shouldn't have been wooden spooners back at that time. That was the first of our COVID years, wasn't it? 2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gee, that feels like an ancient memory. Thank goodness.
A long time ago, wasn't it?
I am very surprised this is the first New South Wales Queensland Grand Final since the Tigers played the Cowboys in 2005. That's very surprising to me.
Is it really?
Well, Melbourne have been in a lot of them, obviously, but
Yeah, well, I suppose Cowboys played Brisbane, Broncos played Storm. Yeah, they wouldn't. Yeah, you're right. A New South Wales versus Queensland Grand Final.
mini Origin.
Mini Origin.
Let's rip into our final podcast for 2023.
No.
That's the rule.
No. Dear.
We've already established Grand Final week is the best week of the year. That was my first question. So my first question for yes, no. The Broncos and the Panthers will meet in the 2024 Grand Final.
No. I don't think you can be that sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Roosters. I'm looking at their roster. I'm looking at the young blokes coming through. And I can't believe they finished where they did. At the start of the year, they were probably up there in the top two favourites. I've always thought Panthers would be favourites and the team to beat this year. And on this podcast at the start of the season, I said if there was one team outside the 8 that could make a run, might be the Broncos. So they've been able to do that. But the one that surprised me this year is the Roosters, and I think they'll be back bigger and better again next year. Don't get me wrong, I think this rivalry between the Panthers and the Broncos might go on for the next 3 or 4 years at least, and they'll certainly be up there amongst them. But I think the Rooster will have something to say about it in the next 12 months.
So who's coming through at the Roosters that catches your eye? We know your opinion of Siwa Wong.
Yeah, I just think they got it wrong this year, though. There's just a few little things that they got wrong. They were in the grand final of the under-20s, the Jersey Flag. They've got other good kids coming through there. I think the emergence of players like Terrell May interests me. They bought Spencer Leniu. They bought Dominic Young from Newcastle. And they haven't really lost anyone. It's been very clever.
What are you getting at?
They just seem to have had the best roster in the comp at the start of this year. They've gone out and bought more. It's brilliant. I think the Roosters will have their say. Look, if you're asking me, can Panthers and the Broncos play in next year's grand final? I think they can. I said on 100% footy the other night, they might play in the next 2 or 3, these two sides. I think this is just the start of something big. I liken this a little bit to where, I liken the Broncos to where the Panthers were back in 2020 when they went to their first grand final.
Does feel a bit like that.
Yeah. That young Panthers side had sort of made the top 8 for the last 3 of the last 4 years. A very, very young side, and most of them graduated through to be a part of that grand final side in 2020. And they were beaten on experience. They were beaten on inexperience in that grand final. I kept saying through the commentary there, they're right in this game. They're right on top of the Melbourne Storm, but the scoreboard kept running against them because the Melbourne just had the experience and they had a little bit of luck, and they were just able to hold the Panthers off at the end of the game and win narrowly. Since then, the Panthers have won or been to 3 grand finals and won 2, obviously, and about to win their 3rd. The Broncos are similar. You know, they've made a magic run to get to this point of the season, and they deserve their place in the grand final, and they'll give a really great account of themselves, but the Panthers are now in their 4th grand final in a row. They're the ones with the experience.
Amazing record.
They're the ones with the big game record. They're the ones that have proven at this level. And you kind of think that maybe that might be the edge that they have in this particular game. But anyway, as for next year, I don't think with any certainty. Your first question, grand final is the best week of the year. It is, but for a number of reasons. I think winning a premiership is the greatest thing you can achieve in the game. There are many individual recognitions. Probably the biggest individual recognition is to wear your national colours, to be picked in your national team, be it Australia or New Zealand or your Pacific Islands, whatever you favour. There are individual awards, obviously. There are awards every year for individual players, you know, individual achievements, origins, you know, even game balls and winning man of the match. You know, it's some of my greatest achievements were being voted by your teammates as a man of the match. But the greatest thing you'll ever achieve in a game is to win a premiership with your teammates. And sometimes that takes years of being together and working together and living together to get to a point like this where you get a chance to win it.
So do you hold your premiership victories above your origin successes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. All of those other things are individual things. Although the origin teams, I was very, very lucky that I coached. They became a bit like family and like club sides. You know, if you can be there for long enough with the same core group of players, and that will be your time, that will be your era. It was one of the things we talked about in Origin that, you know, we couldn't control what had happened previously, and we can't control what's going to happen into the future, but we can control what happens in our time, and that's the big thing about Origin is making it your time, and they're very special memories. But the premierships, without doubt, I think it's the greatest achievement you can have, and when you won one, you'll understand. It's the greatest achievement you'll feel out of the game. It's the one thing that sticks with you for years in your retirement, that you won that premiership. And it's often a regret that a lot of great players had that they didn't win a premiership. A lot of great players didn't play in a grand final. Many of them didn't win a premiership. And it's one of the things that they miss the most is that feeling of winning a premiership. Even though they went on kangaroo tours and they might have won, you know, Origin series and been Dally M Player of the Year or whatever, or won Rothman's medals, it's still that premiership is that hole that you want filled. So
ET's the great example of that, isn't he?
Yeah, this is the greatest thing you can achieve.
I suppose with club, and you know better than anyone now, football clubs are big beasts now, and every facet of a football organisation, I suppose, is geared towards trying to win a premiership. So it's not just the players; it's the whole organisation.
I mean, our Jersey flag team, our under-21s team at the Bulldogs, won their grand final on the weekend, right? And it doesn't get a lot of publicity, and to most rugby league fans, they wouldn't even know that competition exists. But in the dressing room after the game, we've got staff that have been working for our organisation for 20, 30 years, you know, in tears after the game.
That's great.
Because, you know, and some of our ex-players that are coaches, and our coaches, you know, breaking down in tears after the game, winning his first premiership. And
Who's your coach?
Blackwell Luke Bella, who was a footballer and suffered a very serious injury and couldn't extend his career.
Oh, I've read that piece, yes.
Yeah,
what a lovely story.
Yeah.
Good on him.
He was highly emotional after the game. School teacher, lovely bloke, and I'm not talking out of school. He might be getting a little promotion this week. I haven't spoken to him. I can't talk about that.
Oh. Not punting Cameron Ciraldo, eh?
No.
Good on you, Luke. Well done to all the Bulldogs Jersey flag boys. Doesn't matter. You know what? You can win your under-10s grand final. Some people still relish that.
Personally, they're the ones you remember.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as a young footballer coming through, I only ever won one premiership. I think in the under-14s or under-15s with Wentworth All Leagues.
Wow.
Yeah, so as a young player, you know, some players play their whole career and never win one.
Who's the best?
Never play in a grand final.
Who's the best? Did Steve Rogers not play in a grand final?
I don't think he would have. No. Who did he play with?
Cronulla and St George.
Yeah, I don't think he would have.
I'm trying to think of other famous examples. I'm sure
Wayne Pearce didn't win a competition. Nathan Hindmarsh didn't win a competition.
Yeah, don't bring it up with them.
There'll be plenty of players out there that didn't win a premiership.
And Kevin Walters, now he won. Has he won 6?
Well, you'd have won plenty. You'd have been
He won one
involved
with Canberra, and then captain Brisbane in 2000. Won both the early 90s ones. And he's won 6. Was that Super League 2? I think that's Super League 2.
They won in 98.
98, that's the one.
Yeah.
So Canberra, 92, 93, 98, 2000. That's incredible. Amazing record.
I know. I've known players to play in 6 or 7 grand finals. You know, like they played in. You know, just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right club.
You know the great example. Day. James Graham played in all those grand finals in England, and he only won. He won in his last game in that remarkable game, right at the end there.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, grand final week. Jessie Southwell will be considered the female equivalent of Andrew Johns.
Well, she already is. We've made that comparison.
she's 18. She's already the female equivalent.
Well, it's uncanny, some of her movements, and we've actually showed it on the Channel 9 coverage, comparing it to Andrew Johns. Just the look of her in that number 7 jersey. Mind you, Mitchell Pearce, we did the same with Mitchell Pearce. There are movements that they make that just remind you of the great one, Andrew Johns, the immortal, and that brings back great memories. But she's a talented young girl. My God, what an amazing young girl, and a great goal kicker. And they're headed for another premiership success, I think. Although the Titans were very good on the weekend, beating the Rooster.
Yeah. I haven't seen
tackled their hearts out.
An NRLW team defend so stoically.
Tackled their hearts out. They really did. Like Roosters, probably the best roster in the competition, but have failed to get through to the big day. So it hasn't been a happy year for that club. But Newcastle, I think they're headed towards premiership success. I think they'll defend their title. And
Jessie might win her first premiership as a teenager. If she plays till she's 35, she might win 20 of it. Yeah. Maybe not. All right. Yep. One of the funny things you and I have done, well, I think so. I don't know whether our listeners believe so. We talked about the mascots, and there's an interesting battle between the mascots in the state championship final on Sunday. How does a bunny beat a tiger? Well, it's a yes, no. A bunny can beat a tiger.
Yeah, I think this bunny will be beating this tiger.
They're a pretty handy side, the Brisbane Tigers. They got a lot of Melbourne Storm players.
Yeah. That's like two blokes running away from a lion. A lion was chasing them. One said to the other, he said, "Can we outrun a lion?" He said, "I don't have to. I've just got to outrun you."
That's a good one.
South Sydney won the New South Wales Cup Grand Final. I get disappointed that those grand finals aren't played on the big grand final day. It's kind of one of the things, it's one of the pleasures that's been taken away from those lower grade. And those lower grade grand finals are extremely important. Our Jersey Flag, our under-21s competition, and our reserve grade competition, our New South Wales Cup, are extremely important competitions in our Pathways program in developing the NRL players of the future. And those players deserve the recognition of playing on the big day, the big grand final day here in Sydney. It's one of my real disappointments about grand final day, that these teams have shuffled off to suburban grounds in front of families and friends during the course of the year, and then grand final last week. I mean, they were out there at Combank Stadium and the games were played, but in front of very small crowds, and it doesn't get the recognition, and it doesn't get, for the importance of which they are. They are extremely important competitions, and they are wonderful achievements for those clubs. So in the New South Wales Cup Grand Final, South Sydney.
What about it again?
Just beat the North Sydney Bears.
They led with 5 minutes to go. Not again.
So the poor old...
Nothing has ever changed.
Poor old North Sydney Bears. The North Sydney Bears were down 14-10 at half-time, I think it was. Was that right? I can't remember. Anyway, they got to the front. They were in front with like 4 minutes to play.
It's just...
They led by 2 points with 4 minutes to play. And South Sydney broke their hearts.
Seriously?
But it was kind of...
It's kind of in their DNA. I mean, I
don't shoulders and said, "Well,
poor
we all knew what was going to happen there." They did really well, that North Sydney side, and their association with the Roosters now ends. But most of it was made up of players outside top 30s from the Roosters club. They didn't get a lot of support from them. A few of them filtered back in for the grand final, but so too with South Sydney. And the better New South Wales Cup sides have usually got a fair contingent of top 30 players in them. But the North Sydney side was well recruited, well looked after, and would have been great for them to have a premiership. So on grand final day now, the New South Wales Cup winners play against the Queensland Cup winners.
Bunny versus Tiger.
So Brisbane Tigers, they upset the Burleigh Bears the week before. Again, the Bears.
Neither of them won. My goodness.
Yeah, it was.
That was. Not sure if it was an upset. Jonah Pezzett came back in and had a blind, and he'll be there on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So traditionally, the New South Wales Cup winner has won this game pretty comfortably against the Queensland Cup winner. But we'll remain to see.
Recently it has, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends how South Sydney brush up after the weekend.
Well,
Because Burleigh played last week. They get a fortnight break.
They get a week off. Yeah, so they can have their celebrations and freshen up.
They have a fortnight break, so God knows how South Sydney will turn up this week.
Yeah, so a lot of those Melbourne, I think Marion Seve's been named in the Brisbane Tigers team as one of them.
And we went through a few of these times with the Panthers where we won New South Wales Cup competition, and then you got to back up a week later and play the Queensland side. And I think once we played PNG, another time we played Ipswich or someone else, but it's kind of like an add-on. Like the New South Wales Cup build up to that big day, and then it's kind of like an add-on, So the Queensland have got the advantage because they played last week, so they can get all that celebration stuff out of their system, and then say, okay, maybe, and then
maybe they'll have 2 weeks celebration opposed to 1.
Yeah, and they can have the rarity of winning this particular game on the day. But I'm really disappointed that the New South Wales Cup Grand Final and that the Jersey Flegg under 20s, under 23s. NYC competition, whatever it was, that used to be a big part of Grand Final day, is those teams playing on the big day. And I find that very, very disappointing, and I find it demeaning for those competitions, to be honest.
Okay. Well, the Brisbane people will say, well, how come, why can't we have our
they've got
underage?
They've got their Queensland Cup. They can have their big day up there.
I would like to see those games promoted a lot heavier, Gus. I mean, you're at CommBank Stadium. There's no reason that you can't promote that as a big day and draw a decent crowd.
Yeah, it doesn't get promoted.
There was very little promotion.
There was the also the game between the Maitland Pickers and the St Mary's Saints. St Mary's
what
Saints.
Was that?
That was the St Mary's Saints won the Ron Massey Cup, but Maitland Pickers had won something. Well, actually. What had happened? They had to play off against 2 other teams who couldn't field a team because they forfeited because of grand final celebrations. There was, I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, They played on the day, and Maitland had a big win over St Mary's Saints. And
Maitland beat St Mary's?
Flogged them.
Wow.
Beat them by 40-odd. Absolutely flogged
There's
them
the
on the day.
Celebrations. Okay, last question. Phil Gould will be sitting next to Brad Fittler in the New South Wales coaches box in Origin 1 2024.
No.
You'll be on the sideline, will you?
Certainly won't be sitting in any coaches box.
What's the latest?
Well, there is no.
I'm just going to throw the floor open to you because this is a very big story. 20 years after you last coached New South Wales, you could be back in the fold.
Yeah, so I spoke about it on 100% Footy the other night, and all this obviously has got more publicity than it needs, but Brad rang to tell me that Greg Alexander, his good mate, was giving it away. As I've explained a number of times, throughout my life, I've asked Brad Fittler any number of times to do something for me. Something needed to be done, or could he appear here, or could he go there, or could he do this, or could he organise that, or could he help with this or help with that, and he never says no. Same as when I said, do you want to come back and play Origin? Never says no. All right, he's always said yes, and I'm the same with him. Not that he asks for much, but if he rings, we bend over backwards to help each other with whatever it is. If it's important enough to ask, it's important enough to say yes. That's the relationship. So he said, Brandy's going to retire. He said, I wouldn't mind getting you involved in and around the Origin side and just someone to talk to for me. And I said, well, whatever you want. I said, but that's where it is. He said, oh, it's a paid position. It's this. And I said, well, I don't really want a paid position. I don't really want an official position. I'm happy to help with you, but whatever you want to do, you tell me what you want to do. So he was going off to New South Wales Rugby League to state his case for being reappointed as the Origin coach, and I believe that decision comes down today. And I don't know what he said to the New South Wales Rugby League board. He did tell me a number of the players and different programs he wanted to put in place. There were a number of things about New South Wales origin pathways that were stopped during COVID some years ago, which have not been resurrected. There's a funding issue with the New South Wales Rugby League. The New South Wales Rugby League have been at loggerheads with the Australian Rugby League Commission for some time over funding and different programs, and they're all trying to work out the best way to be doing pathways and increasing participation and where this money should be spent. So there's a little bit of politicising and toing and froing going on between the two bodies, and I think as part of Brad Fittler's submission to be reappointed as Origin coach was to resurrect a number of those programs where they're helping kids come through and looking at who's being developed as the future NRL players or future Origin players for New South Wales and down the track. So what he actually presented, I don't know. He spoke to me about a few of the names that he was looking to get involved, which I thought were good, and that was pretty much it. One of the things I did say to him is that he should have a current day coach. I said this to him last year. A current day coach, even just for game day, is very, very helpful, particularly in the coach's box because, Brad Fittler's coaching 3 games a year. He's not used to interchanges. He's not used to dealing with head bins and injuries and,
Well, that's where Ivan Cleary popped in.
And Ivan popped in for the last game.
Would you have a problem? It's been reported there's an issue between you and Ivan because of your history. Would you have an issue working with him?
There's no issue between me and Ivan.
Okay.
And there never has been.
So you say you don't necessarily want a paid job. Does that point towards you just not wanting the money, or does that point towards you not wanting to make that level of commitment?
Well, it's not about the commitment. I'm committed to Brad, whatever Brad wants. Brad wants. I don't need to be paid for it. I don't need to have an official position for it.
What if he says to you, I want you to be officially the chief advisor for the New South Wales Origin team in a formalised role?
Well, if he asks me to do something, I'll say yes.
Okay.
All right. I just need to know what it is he's going to ask me to do. So I'm actually meeting him in a moment to have a little bit of a chat about it, to get a little bit more clarity. But it's certainly not me returning in any great capacity.
Well, I don't know about that because if you were the chief advisor, it is a great capacity. Is this?
Where did you get chief advisor from?
Well, that's what Brandy's role was. That's what Greg Alexander's job was.
No, it wasn't.
His job title was chief advisor.
Well, I don't need a job title.
But he's going to want to give you one. That's the problem.
Greg's job title was Brad Fittler's best mate.
I don't think that's right, Gus.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what his title was.
Brad's his own man. He makes his own decisions. They talk about it. They talk about what they're doing. Of course they do. And you talk about with his coaches and his assistant coaches and whoever else gets involved.
Why are you playing it down? He wants you to be his advisor in the Origin setup. Like it would be exciting for everyone.
Well,
maybe not you.
I don't get it.
Huh?
I don't get why that's so newsworthy.
Well, because it's you. I mean, you're the most successful New South Wales coach ever. To have you back along. Incidentally, the bloke who's coached the second most number of games is Brad Fittler.
Yeah, that's
so
what I mean.
You have you and he together is a big coup for the state.
I don't even know why it's up for conjecture that he should be keeping his job. I find that very strange. I mean, you can count on one hand the people that have won 3 Origin series.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think you've answered the question. If he offers you the job, you'll take it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Whatever he wants me to do, I'll do.
Except play.
I wouldn't have much in
there. Do you feel there's I won't labour this. Do you feel there's some particular areas that you've observed in the last couple of years that you think you could fix?
Oh, not particularly. I haven't really given that any thought. Again, what's he going to need advice with? What's he going to do? It certainly won't be strategy and game plans and, how they run their camp or anything like that. It was virtually just said, whatever we do, we'll just let you know and you just run your eye over it and see if you see anything that we've missed or overlooked or what have you.
I think selection, clearly selection is it. Because selection's going to be a key element of the job.
You're making an assumption there.
Well, I'm simply taking the role that Greg Alexander had and transposing it onto what he might be asking you to do.
Well, I think a few people will be sharing that. I don't think I'm replacing Greg. And I don't even know what Greg did. I don't know to what extent. When I say it like that, I don't know what the extent of was his involvement with it, but. I just know he's very close to Brad, and
well, so are you.
And Brad wanted him involved in there. Brandy's a lot younger than me, mate.
Not really. He's not really.
Yeah.
Are you up? You're down with earthing.
What's
earthing?
That? What's that?
Well, you got to do all this now. You got to walk on the grass with no shoes on and do meditation and in the pool and do your breathing and stuff.
That won't be happening. I certainly won't be involved in that.
Well, it's exciting. It's very exciting because, and look, even a few.
What's exciting? Why do you keep making this exciting?
It's exciting to have you back involved with Origin. I mean, you are synonymous with New South Wales Origin, and if you are to be
That was
back,
20 years ago, mate.
Yeah, but it doesn't. That's the history of the game, Gus. You're playing this down.
20 years ago.
Yeah, but and some of the things you achieved sit in Origin folklore. So it'd be wonderful to have you back involved, and you'll get the competitive juices. You'll be back. I want to go through some of the key matchups in the grand final.
Right.
Now, you think about the fullbacks. Walsh, brilliant. Edwards, so instrumental to Penrith, yet they're so vastly different players, aren't they?
They are. They've certainly got different strengths. And Reece Walsh's strengths are certainly more individual and they're very threatening, where Dylan Edwards is an extremely important cog in this whole machine of the Panthers and plays a very pivotal role in a number of aspects in their game. Reece Walsh at the moment, with this stage of his career and where he is the luxury item, you know. I think Adam Reynolds is the key to the Broncos. He's the governor of this team. He decides the tempo, the pace and where the game goes and how it goes. Ezra Mann is a bit of an X factor. And Reece Walsh is the speculator. He's the absolute speculator. He's the X factor. If what he does sticks, they're going to be very hard to beat. But he's also a mistake factor. There will be speculation.
There was intercept on the weekend, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, there'll be plenty of those. And under pressure of these games, that's where it usually comes out. Now, if he has a great day, if Reece Walsh doesn't make a mistake and has a great day and plays the way it usually does, Penrith's going to be a hard job to contain all of them. Dylan Edwards is probably the one responsible for organising all this. Dylan Edwards is one of the best in the game, if not the best in the game, at marshalling the defences.
We saw how influential he was when he didn't play against Parramatta, and they got absolutely flogged.
Yeah, he's the one that the game today is like a game of chess. The people aren't the general public and the normal rugby league fan. If you're not a student of the game, people don't understand exactly what the game is doing out there, what they're doing to each other, and how they're moving each other around. And it's virtually a game of chess. And across the field, there are points on the field where defensive lines have got to make a decision on how many players they have on a short side, how many players they have on a long side. If a play the ball's in the middle part of the field, how many players either side of the ruck. Whether the fullback's going to be in the line or out of the line to help with that. The marker defenders, which direction will they go once they stand up and get their marker defence right? Have they been caught with 3 or 4 men in the tackle? Is there someone retreating into the line before the ball has been played? The pace of the play of the ball is extremely important. So the really good attacking teams keep going to points on the field where you've constantly got to be making a decision in defence. And what they'll do is deliberately take you to points and play on players who are either slow recoverers at marker defence, slow back into the line, or where sides fullbacks don't make the right decision about being in the line to even up the numbers, or the fullbacks can't organise their middle defenders on either side of the ruck to cover what the opposition is throwing at them. And then with your attack, you can show certain numbers on this side of the field with full intention. If they match that and the fullback stays back, we will outnumber them on that side of the field. There's all sorts of nuances going on out there. That's why the great playmakers are so great, and that's why most of them are all over 30 years of age, because it's taken them a lifetime to learn this and to be able to command it and to be able to move people in the right direction. You'll hear Billy Slater and Jonathan Thurston in particular, because they're younger. They're the younger of our commentary team. They're the most recent players, but you'll hear them describing a try and say, oh, the 4-man turned in, or the 3-man turned in, and they turned the 2-man out, or they're talking about numbers in the defensive line, where the players are in the defensive line.
Yeah.
Arthur and Martha sitting at home watching on the TV, they don't know what a 2-man is and a 4-man is. And
I think you're underestimating Arthur and Martha.
A's defender and B defender. Well, Arthur and Martha. Arthur's saying, Arthur, what's he talking about? That's all this talking about. But that's how the modern day player dissects the attack in the defence and what they're trying to do to each other. It's just not a matter of hitting a couple up and putting on a play. It's not like that. It's where you hit it up to and how you got there and what did you do to the defensive line. So sometimes you might move to a point, pretend to put on a play, come back to another point, which is just a few metres left or right of that to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to put 3 or 4 on that short side. And then whether or not the fullback's going to be in the line, and then what's that leave on this side if they have 2 markers, and suddenly we'll wheel 2 more around and we've got 7 on 5. And that's why
it's a real science.
Well, it's a game of chess. It really is.
And Brisbane's defence to that end, you've been sceptical of their ability to hold up under enormous pressure. In the finals, their defence has been exceptional.
No, the aggression in their defence has been exceptional. The aggression, I don't think it's really been tested with the numbers. Like, Warriors did score a couple of tries on their edges in that first half very, very quickly. Like, it was a tit for tat there for a while.
It was, actually.
One of Dallin's was an intercept, which was Reece Walsh. But the other 2, they got around them pretty easily, with those types of numbers. And it was the same with...
I suppose I'm thinking back more to Melbourne.
Panthers and Melbourne just destroyed them, absolutely destroyed. Well, Melbourne's nowhere near in form. Melbourne's nothing like what it used to be. And Melbourne, to be honest, don't really play that sort of technical game. Their game is more reliant on Harry Grant and Munster, and they've missed the double teaming of Brandon Smith, that used to be with that around the middle of the field, and a Pappenhausen supporting from the back. The Melbourne Storm has changed its style. The Melbourne Storm isn't the chess examination that you have when you play against some of the other teams. So if you're playing against a Roosters or a Sharks or a Brisbane Broncos or a South Sydney, so if you're playing against Cody Walkers and these sorts of players, you get an examination in how you can organise your defence in an instant, depending on where the ball is played, the speed of the ruck, where the ball has come from to get there, and what they're showing to you. Where's Cody Walker? Where's Latrell Mitchell? Where's this? Where's Nico Hines? Where's Brandon Trindle? Where's Kennedy? So Dylan Edwards has got this thing where he's going to have to be sitting there and he's going to have to be looking at Payne Haas and Carrigan and Flegler and these blokes around the middle of the field. He's going to have to be watching Walters and see what he's doing out of dummy half. He'll be looking particularly where Adam Reynolds puts himself. And is Adam Reynolds the real deal, or is all of a sudden Reece Walsh and Ezra Mann over the other side of the field? And he might be a decoy and they might be going that way. And that's through watching video after video after video. Dylan Edwards will have an automatic repertoire or automatic library in his head of what their shapes look like. It's getting more and more like the NFL in that regard. Who's positioned where, and sometimes Reece Walsh will hide behind the play the ball, but will appear 2 passes out. That was Billy Slater's greatest strength. Billy Slater was so fast he could line up behind Cameron Smith at the play the ball, within an instant be inside Cooper Cronk, and then within an instant be outside the person that Cooper Cronk passes it to, and he's outside him ready to create a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1 on the outside. So you're actually defending him 3 or 4 times in the one play. Dylan Edwards will have all of that in his mind on every play that the game does. Not so much when they're coming out of trouble, but certainly when they come down to what they call good ball. That's where they're going to run most of their attacking shapes at you. So he's got to contend with the dummy half, Walters, the forwards, Haas and Flegler and Carrigan and these sort of blokes. All right, where's Reynolds? Who's he got near him? Has he got Ezra Mann with him? Has he got Reece Walsh with him? Where is Reece Walsh? What's Reece Walsh doing there? Why is he over there? Why isn't he over there? How deep are they on that side? How flat are they on that side? Where are my defenders? Who was in that tackle? Fisher Harris and Leota and Yo were in that tackle. All right, well, who have I got? You need to come back here. You need to be in this position. You need to be in that position.
I don't know how they... I don't know how you do that for 80 minutes.
Well, he's done it for years. It's phenomenal. And that's why their defence system is the best in the game. And then what they call their spaces, their width of their shapes and the direction they come off the line and who defends who in an instant on the edge of the field where they're running those decoy runs at you, whether they're going to give it to the first runner, they're going to throw it out the back and who's involved. So Dylan Edwards, over the years, develops into the best defensive fullback into the game, not just because he can tackle. And if it breaks down there and they come through the line, Dylan Edwards is normally right there to affect a tackle. He saves more tries.
His grand final tackle last year is a great example.
He saves more tries than any fullback in the game, and he's always there and he's organising people. And as they retreat back in defence, forwards will have a quick look at him and he'll say, you need to go that side. You need to go that side. You need to stay where you are. You need to turn. They're already, and he'll have little signals to them, and they won't question it. If he says go that way, they'll go that way. Some forwards in some teams, and they'll say they go and say, I'm not doing that. I'm happy here.
So to that end, how much is the key to Penrith? Then you talk about how many trick plays or
and Reece Walsh is not doing that for the Broncos. not to Dylan Edwards. That's why I see the difference in the two defensive lines.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's where I think there's going to be the biggest factor here, is in they're both two great attacking teams, but the inexperience of the occasion and the knowledge part of it lies with Dylan Edwards.
So most people...
So it'll be a battle of Dylan Edwards watching Adam Reynolds and Reece Walsh and what's happening at the ruck with the forwards to decide how he organises his defensive line on each play.
Are you saying that's the key to the game?
Well, no. The key to your defence in the game is where you're tackling. So if most of your tackling is at their end of the field and they're working out trouble, and that's where the Panthers are extremely good because they don't drop the ball. Their outside backs make a lot of metres. Nathan Cleary kicks the ball to where they need it. Their kick chase is extraordinary. They put a lot of pressure on the opposition. The only time you need to be making those sort of decisions is when they're coming down to your end. How do they get down to your end? They can only get down to your end if they make a line break, if someone misses a tackle, if they get a penalty, if they get a 20-metre tap and a 7-tackle set, or you drop the ball, give them a scrum feed or give them a 7-tackle set.
Or Reynolds nails a 40-20.
No. So all those things that can change the momentum and where you have to defend. Then you have to defend it, get the ball back as quick as you can, and then start working to get the ball back to the other end of the field. Great defences are a result of great ball control and great field position control. The Panthers very rarely have to defend their own end of the field. And if they do, they only do for a short spurt of time, diffuse it, get the ball, then they're so good. Brian Tungor, Crichton, all these blokes come in and belt the ball up, give their forwards a little bit of a break. The ball goes back to Cleary. You can kick it as high as you like, as long as you like, to wherever he wants. And the kick chase is enormous. They go down there and they make their tackles and they don't give away penalties and they strangle you out of the game. And that's so it's just not one little thing. It's a combination of the type of football and the mentality of your players over a period of time. And because these players have played together now for so long, and been in so many big games now and experienced Origin and rep football and grand finals and winning premierships, it's the combination of the lot that they just so trust each other and trust the process that they're unflappable now. They're just totally unflappable. There will be periods on the weekend where Broncos have good periods, right? And the Panthers will handle that. But when the Panthers have their good periods, I just don't know that the Broncos will handle that as well as what Panthers will. So, and I go back to the couple of tries that the Warriors scored in the first half the other night, where they outnumbered them on both sides of the field pretty quickly. If Warriors are doing that, Panthers are certainly going to do it.
I was just going to say, too, with respect to that possession, if you put all of Penrith games together this year, they've had 56% of the ball.
Yeah, balling. Yeah, that's, they've had the most possession of any team in the comp.
It's pretty amazing, 56%.
Bulldogs had the least. The first clue is the Bulldogs kick off about 8 times a game.
Don't say that. Hey, I want to get a comment from... Now,
Panthers very rarely kick off.
We've got all these superstars. Yeah. Can I get a word from you on the hookers? They're both unfashionable players. My goodness, they've both done a good job, haven't they? They've been brilliant.
Yeah, terrific.
Billy Walters is playing so well. Yeah. And Kenny is just a toiler.
He is, mate. Kenny's... He was like that through the juniors coming through, and he was kind of an unheralded player, but I said he's a real worker. He's a real effort player. He made his debut in 2019, and he virtually hasn't looked back. They've actually left him on the field playing front row and lock.
Yeah.
Because of his leg speed and his work rate and his work in defence. And he's one of them blokes that will get in position quickly. The beauty of the Panthers' middle forwards, you're talking, Asai Yeo, Moses Leota and James Fisher-Harris, is not only their power and their strength, but their mobility and their fitness. And the ability to keep getting in the right positions. The movements of your middle forwards off the ball and getting in position is so important, because that gives confidence to the edge players, are the ones that have got to make the big decisions when the opposition runs the big plays, and the outside backs have got to make decisions the whole time. But if your middles are totally in control and totally in command of that area there, and your middles are willing to work from one side of the play the ball to the other to cover the needs of what the fullback's looking at with his defensive line, that's a big asset. The Panthers' middle forwards are a huge part of the great defensive system that they got.
Well, that was the next one I was going to touch on, actually. Look, everyone's talked to death about the halves. I don't think I've seen him play a lot of great games. Geez, James Fisher-Harris was unbelievable on the weekend. And he'll be going after Payne Haas. That's going to be a sensational battle.
Yeah. I don't know that he will.
Oh.
I think that he'll let Payne Haas worry about coming after him. James Fish-Harris has got a job to do. And it doesn't revolve around Payne Haas.
Well, I suppose when I say coming after him, that is the jewel.
Yeah, and that's part of the education of representative class play. It's not about the individual things. It's not about listening to the media about the confrontation and me against them. It's me doing a job for my team. That's what I have to do. I have to do a job for my team. So if I'm going out there wondering about the personal rivalry between me and another player, well, then I'm not concentrating on my role for the team. And that's, where you have to be. And what they talk about is being selfless and being team-minded, and they work on team-based actions. All the statistics that all media throw up and everyone throws up about judging performances and all that, Panthers have got nothing. They'd have nothing to do with those statistics. They're not worried about run counts and yardage counts and tackle counts and missed tackle counts. They're worried about what they call team-based actions, which are a whole myriad of things that players are constantly doing. And it's been proven over a long period of time, if they have this number of team-based actions during a game, they win. It's got nothing to do with tackles and missed tackles and runs and meters. Right? Very, very little. That is a product of what they do here with team-based actions and where they go from there. So, and that's the real game. That's the game that no one sees.
Is this these are the two best props in the game? Are they? From what we've seen, I mean, I just thought Fisher-Harris was phenomenal on the weekend. I mean, that was leadership, wasn't it? He took them on himself. It was a bit like Darryl Broman back in his heyday. Single-handedly took on the opposition. Yeah,
how you judge that, and Payne Haas does a lot of very visible work in the game that people easily identify with. The big run or the offload or he's backing cover defence, covering kicks and all that sort of thing. But there are other things to his game that isn't so good, all right, and can be found out under pressure. It's as simple as that, and they're not so much team-based. He will learn that in time, but it's not purely the way that we judge players and we judge performances, and that's getting a bit technical, but that's the truth of it. So,
all right,
the media can go on with its rivalries and confrontations and who hates who and who spat on who and who doesn't like
I wasn't getting at a personal thing. I just thought, the battle between those two gentlemen on the field is
but they're great players.
Phenomenal.
They're great players.
Adam G's been given the grand final. He'll referee the grand final for the first time. Congratulations to him. The Panthers win 93% of games under his refereeing, apparently. They win 90% of games anyway.
Wouldn't matter who they played. Wouldn't matter who refereed them.
I'm going to get all your predictions a little bit later. We've got to do that thanks to our mates at Bluebet. 6 tackles trivia. 3 Broncos players appeared in their last 2 grand finals. 2006, 2015. Only 3 men appeared in both.
In both? They play in both those?
Yes.
In 2006 and 2015?
Yep.
Only 3 Broncos?
Yes, Jordan, I changed your question.
It's 9 years apart.
Who were they is my question. Name the 3 men. A little break here on 6 tackles with Gus on the other side. Some Ask Gus questions. We'll get a thought from Gus on the Dally M's and his predictions for the grand finals on Sunday, which you will see exclusively live on Nine's Widewater Sports. Brisbane's last premiership in 2006. And then that unbelievable grand final of 2015.
Lost in the last minute.
3 Broncos. 3 men played for the Broncos in both of those games. Whom might they be?
Well, they were obviously senior players in 2015 and would have been very young in 2006. Senior players in 2015 at the Broncos. Senior players 2015 at the Broncos. Our Channel 9 boy, Sam Thaiday.
1.
Senior players.
One's a forward, the other 2 remaining. One's a forward, one's a back.
The lock forward, Corey Parker.
2.
The other one's a back. Can only be Darius.
Darius Boyd, he's nailed it.
Really? Okay.
So, in 2006, Corey Parker came off the bench. Sam Thaiday played in the second row. Darius Boyd played on the wing.
They would have been young then.
In 2015, Darius played fullback, Sam played prop, Corey Parker played lock. There you have it. 3 great Broncos. And Sam's going to join us actually on Friday the 8th today, which is going to be great to talk to a Broncos champion. Dally M tonight. Now, I'm going to go through, just tell me who you think I'm going to go through all the positions, and you can tell me who you think is going to get in, right? Now, fullback of the year.
Who do I think will get in, or who do I think was the best?
I don't know. Which one do you want to do? But you've got to do it from the nominees.
I don't follow the voting. I don't.
So Reece Walsh isn't nominated for fullback of the year because if you get suspended for a game, you can still be eligible, but you lose the maximum amount of points, which this year is 6. But he got a multiple game suspension, so therefore he's ineligible.
I find that ridiculous.
So the nominee, well, tell me who you think will win, okay? Nominees for fullback: Tedesco, Edwards, Ponga.
See, the flaw in this voting is that if you play with a really, like a Dylan Edwards is playing with a team where Cleary and Luai and, Yo and these sort of blokes, are getting points all the time, Crichton, they're taking points off you. If you are a great player in a team that's not performing so great, you get a point every week when you lose,
yes.
And if you win, you get 3 points.
Correct. Well, you get 6 now.
The system's flawed.
So there's 2 judges now,
Yeah, the system is flawed. Anyway.
So are you saying the system to judge who the overall Dally M winner?
It's always been flawed.
Before you go on,
yep.
The Brownlow medal, right?
Right.
Now the umpires give the votes.
Yeah, that's.
What do you reckon about that?
That's flawed too.
I reckon that's.
It used to be like that with us. The Rothmans medal used to be the referees used to pick it. The referees used to give the 3-2-1.
Turn it up. You can't be giving the look.
No.
And the AFL's done this since day dot. And and Gil McLachlan actually was asked about it and said, "We're not." Even though he's leaving, it's never going to change. You don't want the umps giving the vote. That's why all the bloody midfielders always winning.
No.
And all the blokes that are, yes sir, thanks sir, suck.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but anyway, yeah, like I say, the awards, leave me a bit cold. I don't get too enamoured with it all.
So for those listening, there used to be 1 judge per game. There's now 2.
Right.
And they give 3, each give 3-2-1. So let's say, for instance, Nathan Cleary is unanimously the player of the match for both. He gets 6. Or you or I could choose, I could say Isaiah Yo, you could say Stephen Crichton. So Yo gets my 3, and you'll say there's more points available.
Yep.
So that, anyway. Who's going to be fullback? Teddy?
And it usually comes up with a great player that wins it.
Yeah.
And every now and then you get a shock, but the system itself is flawed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not backing away from that.
Does that mean you don't want to go through it? Who's going to be Dally M fullback of the year?
Who will be?
Yes.
I think Dylan Edwards has been the fullback of the year.
Okay.
I think a bloke like Kalen Ponga with that magical run's probably scored extremely well in a team like the Knights. Tedesco, the Roosters, as I said, they look like not making the 8 there at one stage, but maybe in all those losing games, he might have been picking up 1 point every week and getting a little bit of a run on. I think Dylan Edwards deserves it. So
What about Reece Walsh? He's been the fullback of the year, though, hasn't he? Or
though he's
not eligible for this.
Yeah, they're different sort of players, but.
Well, you've outlined Edwards' value brilliantly.
Reece Walsh has announced himself as a superstar. Dylan Edwards is just the professional tradesman that is such an important cog in this Panthers machine.
Okay.
And,
Edwards for Gus. Wingers, 2 of them. Dallin, Jermaine Sarko, leading point scorer this year. Great year. Brian To'o, Dom Young, Selwyn Cobbo, Ronaldo Mulatalo. They're the nominees.
Yeah, I think Brian To'o has clearly been the best winger in the season for mine. Dominic Young had an amazing year with the Knights. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak and his try scoring for the Warriors, plus his work in general player. Jermaine Sarko to be his leading point scorer playing with the emerging club, the Dolphins, has been phenomenal. Brian To'o statistically is the best winger in the game at this particular point in time. Ronaldo scores a lot of tries. Selwyn's flashy. I will go with Brian To'o and Jermaine Sarko.
Jermaine Sarko, very good. 2 centres, Stephen Crichton, who, in my humble opinion, has been the best centre in the game all year. Not that my opinion counts. Bradman Best, Katani Staggs, Campbell Graham, Herbie Farnworth, he's had a blinder. Isaac Tungor, who's missed a lot of footy.
Yeah. Out of those, Stephen Crichton is a standout. I thought he was probably New South Wales' best this year too, playing in the centres. And Bradman Best had a wonderful finish to the year and also played his Origin debut this year and was great. So I'm going to go with the 2 at the top there, Crichton and Bradman Best. I've got a great opinion of the 2 Brisbane boys, Staggs and Farnsworth, though. I think they do a wonderful job for their team. Isaac Tungor was out injured for a period there. Campbell Graham, South lost their way. Yeah, I'm going to go with Crichton and Best.
5/8, Mam, Munster, Walker.
I'm going to go with Ezra Mann.
He's been super, hasn't he?
Yep.
What a player. And he's only 20, early 20s. Jeez, got some footy left, hasn't he?
Yep.
Cleary, Cherry Evans, Johnson in the 7.
Johnson's part in the Warriors revival has been significant and probably one of the good news stories of the game. Daly Cherry Evans has had an amazing year. He's 35 years of age.
I know.
Won an Origin series, and but Manly just didn't quite get it done at the back end. Whenever they won, he was the best player on the field. And Nathan Cleary is Nathan Cleary, and his service is a great team out there with so many great players in it. But I think the good news story of the year is Sean Johnson.
Okay. Egan Coruscant Grant as hooker. West Tiger is nominated.
Wade Egan
has
been phenomenal for the Warriors, I thought.
Props. Goes on and on. Collins, Haas, Fisher Harris, Arsiva Solomona, Jake Trebojevic, Aden Fanua Blake.
James Fisher Harris and Aden Fanua Blake for me.
Liam Martin, Britton Nakora, Tyson Frizzell, Hamali Olakawatu, David Fafita, Hudson Young, 2 second rowers.
Liam Martin, and I think Britton Nakora has been very good for the Sharks.
Paul Gallen put him in. You're agreeing?
He's been very good.
Wow.
He actually has been very good.
Well, you think Tohu Harris has been the best player all year. So
Hudson Young has also been very, very good for the Raiders.
He has been good.
Liam Martin and Hudson Young.
Oh, changed. Just because Gal put him in, see?
You reminded me.
Does Tohu Harris beat Yohan Carrigan?
Look at these three players. Tohu Harris, Asai Yeo and Patrick Carrigan. How instrumental the lock forward has become to the big teams, to the successful teams in this competition.
If you had them all on the same team, you wouldn't beat them, would you? They'd be hard to beat.
Well, there might be other things that don't get done, but Tohu Harris has been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
All right. This is Gus's team of the year according to the Dally M nominees. Dylan Edwards, Brian To'on, Jermaine Asako, Stephen Crichton, Bradman Best, Ezra Mam, Sean Johnson. Props. Who do we say? James Fisher Harris and Aden Fanua Blake. Wade Egan's the hooker. Liam Martin, Hudson Young, and Tohu Harris. Good side. Good representation of Warriors, which is obviously more than appropriate. Okay. Andrew on Ask Gus. What's the best premiership winning side you've seen in the modern era? Well, it'll be Penrith if they win on Sunday, won't it?
Yeah, what's the modern era?
I'm assuming the NRL era.
NRL era, yeah. I think this Penrith side would beat them all. I don't know that there's a side they couldn't beat. Certainly some of the Melbourne Storm teams were phenomenal, and a couple of the Roosters teams. The Roosters team that went back to back was phenomenal as well. They'd be great games. They'd be super games. But again, in slightly different eras and slightly different rule changes and 6 agains and tackle techniques and all that sort of thing. But Storm Roosters and this Panthers team now, they can sit very calmly alongside some of the best teams in history.
If Penrith win on Sunday, where does that put them?
Amongst the best teams in history.
Would you? It's been 40 years since Para won 3 in a row. Does this make them the best team in the last 40 years? If they win?
Look, I wouldn't go as far to say. I don't like comparing eras like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, back in the 60s, 70s and 80s, there was no salary caps or anything like that for a start. It was hard to win a couple of comps in a row. It was easy to win a couple of comps in a row because you kept your team together for longer and you could buy whoever you wanted. There was no limit on the people you bought. And, you go back far enough, Dragons won 11 in a row. South Sydney won 4 out of 5. I don't really like to compare, but if you are talking about the greatest teams in our history, I think statistically and even performance-wise, this Panthers team ranks amongst the best. There's none better. To rank them above others, I think I don't like to do that because I like to respect the past. But there's none better.
I think, yeah. You do like to respect the past, but I mean, to think there would be a team that would stand alongside that great St George side, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate accolade for a club team, isn't it?
But go back and watch the footage of the way they played and the way this Penrith team played. Penrith have beaten by 180.
Yeah, that's right.
That's just the difference in the eras.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to drag those teams out of the past, and if you could somehow do it, drag them back and play against this Panthers team today, you'll get beaten.
Well, just with fitness, isn't it?
That's just the way the game is these days. The football gets better and the players get better. They get bigger, they get stronger, they get faster. They're more skillful, they're more knowledgeable. I mean, it's That's just where the modern game is. So that's why I don't like to disrespect the past by, and when you look back on teams and say, well, they were a great team, or they were the best ever, it's nostalgia that does it.
Yeah.
It's like me saying Arthur Beetson's the greatest forward I've ever seen. Well, that's nostalgic, because these days Arthur wouldn't keep up in the way the game is played. You know how it is? Like,
he might train a bit harder.
Well, he'd have to, or he wouldn't be in the side. And would they play the same way? Like I often say, if Steve Menzies walked into training day, where would you play him? If Steve Menzies walked into a training session today, where would they play him? What position would they play him?
Well, why
if Cliff Lyons walked into a training session today looking for a game, how would they make him play? Because it's all totally different. The game is completely different.
Why did you mention Steve Menzies?
Well, Steve Menzies was a lock forward who scored a heap of tries just following Cliff Lyons around the field, and he was all over the place. They don't play like that anymore. Forwards used to play on both sides of the field. Centres used to combine, halves used to wander in all parts of the field. Pretty much today, they all play in lanes. They just play in one corridor. The football is different. So I said to Steve, I saw him the other day at New South Wales Rugby League headquarters. We were there with the Bulldogs having a session out there, and he was popped in for something. I said, if you played today, what position would they play you? He said, they'd probably play me in the centres.
Yeah,
is what he thought.
He played a bit of centre, didn't he? He played a lot like that.
He filled in for rep teams, and he was always a handy player in your team because he was that back rower that could play in the outside backs if you got an injury. That's very, very handy when you're selecting rep teams, is how you cover every position. We had the situation this year where where New South Wales lost Tom Trbojevic in the first minute, and Damien Cook ended up in the centres.
It'd be nice to have Steve Menzies on the bench.
Yeah, well, if you had a Steve Menzies on the bench, well, it's an automatic. You can't cover everything, but you can. You've got to have a plan anyway.
Do you think the Warriors, asks Belly, I don't think it's Belly Ache, do you think the Warriors are building to a top four, a consistent top four team and potentially a grand final in the coming year? Do they have the right ingredients?
Of course they do. Yeah, I think so. And I think the big thing about the Warriors is getting their pathways back in order, so that they have a steady stream of great talent. I think, similar to what you've seen at the Panthers, and is the Warriors have got every opportunity to have a steady stream of locally developed talent coming through their system the whole time. And obviously, that probably hasn't been set up as good as it should have been done in the past, and that comes down to money and investment, and the game's got to take an interest in New Zealand. We need New Zealand to be strong at the international level, and that means the Warriors have got to be strong, the pathways have got to be strong. Part of the strategy when I was talking to the Warriors in my short time there was to get them back involved in the New South Wales Rugby League junior rep program, your Harold Matts, your SG Bull, your Jersey Flag, and your New South Wales Cup, getting those Warriors teams. That's expensive for private ownership, so the league has actually funded that. The league is funding for New Zealand kids programs to come across here, setting up academies over there in New Zealand, so they're getting the best of the talent. The people in New Zealand don't feel as though they've got to move to Australia to get schooling or to get a scholarship or to get a chance in junior rep football, and that takes years to do, but from what I understand, they're doing a really good job with it. COVID hurt them, but they've come out of COVID with a new mindset and a new attitude. And I think the Warriors' best is clearly in front of them. The profile of what the Warriors have got now, that's why that day against the Newcastle Knights in the final was so important for the code and so important for the Warriors, because the whole country is talking about them now. And that's great. Not every kid can play rugby over there. Not every kid is suited to rugby. When you come out of the schools there in New Zealand, as I saw it at the time when I visited there isn't a lot in rugby league to run a program. That's why so many come to Australia. And those that can't do it are sort of lost. They were just in the rugby system over there. And if you wanted to play rugby league, you had to go out in the park as a teenager and play against men. And you can imagine what that's like in New Zealand. They're so big and strong. And,
no, thanks.
And not everyone can be an All Black. Not everyone can play in the super teams across there. There's only so many spots available. So the Warriors Rugby League needed to provide a great pathway, and the Australian Rugby League Commission needed to fund that, and they are. They are helping them be involved in those junior rep competitions, where they performed admirably and will only get better. Their relationship with the Auckland Rugby League, which is the biggest governing body in New Zealand, is extremely crucial, and the Auckland Rugby League are run by very much development-minded people who are interested in the future of our code in that country, and they need to be supported, and the Warriors need to have a relationship with them, and I'm sure they're working on that. And I see the Warriors being I've always said they should be a juggernaut, and they will.
Good people that run the Warriors, and they deserve their success this year. Okay. Thanks to Bluebet. What are you really gambling with? gamblinghelponline.org.au. Now, we've got the state championship final. You've said that Bunny would beat Tiger.
Bunny will beat Tiger if they turn up in any sort of condition to play footy.
Yes.
I'm going to imagine that they will.
Oh, yeah. There's a market on this at Bluebet. $2.20 Souths. Brisbane Tigers $4.40. NRL, you see all of these games live and free on 9. Knights Tigers, NRLW Grand Final, Newcastle $1.50. Did I say Tigers? Titans. Newcastle $1.50. Titans $2.55 Outsiders.
Yeah, I think the Knights are just too strong for them. I'm full of admiration for what the Titans girls have done, and particularly their win over the Roosters. It was terrific, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they can come up with that same defensive resolve. But the Knights are something else. They're a very, very skillful team.
Penrith $1.62, Brisbane $2.30 for the NRL Grand Final for 2023. Now, the Clive Churchill medal market, Gus. Nathan Cleary is a $3.25 favourite to get man of the match.
Man of the match?
$3.25.
Well, that's because Panthers are favourite to win, and if they win, then generally it's the halfback who gets the plaudits. Who was it last year? Dylan Edwards was the Clive Churchill medal winner. The year before it was Nathan Cleary.
He joined a very select group of people to win 2 Clive Churchill medals, should he get it. How do you see it panning out, and who will be the Clive Churchill medal winner?
I think Panthers will win. I think if you played this game 5 times, Panthers would probably win 4 times. Whether this one can be the one that Brisbane can get them, Panthers would have to help. Panthers would have to contribute for Brisbane to win, I feel. I just think that over the course of the game, all the stuff that Penrith I know will get right. There's no guarantee that Broncos will continue to do it. They're a terrific side, deserve their position here. They've improved remarkably over the last 6 or 8 weeks in a number of facets of their game. But this is different, and Panthers have got the big game experience, the grand final experience. I just see that Broncos might be a little bit new this year, and I liken it a lot to where the Panthers were 4 years ago when they played in their first grand final. They lost that game on inexperience. Melbourne won it on experience and a little bit of luck, and I think that's steeled the Panthers for the next 3 years where they've made the grand final. This one, I can see inexperience being a factor for the Broncos, and I can see the Panthers' experience being a big factor as well. Plus the steadiness of their play. There's not much you can disrupt with the Panthers. The thing about the Panthers, they're happy to grind away and ignore the scoreboard for an hour if they have to. They're not worried about the scoreboard. They just worry about the grind and getting the things done right. If Brisbane play well, Panthers will respect that. If it's tight or they get behind, Panthers will respect that. They'll still play the same way. The Broncos, they've got the X factor, but they've also got the mistake factor. And I just think I don't think they're going to be able to make as many mistakes as what they normally do and beat a team like the Penrith Panthers. So I'm going with Panther to win and probably in the end win comfortably, although it'll be a battle. And as for the player, I've selected Asai Yeo because he's so instrumental in both attack and defence, and I can just see him learning a lot out of this year's Origin experience, where Queensland did a really good job on him and closed him and his influence down in the first 2 games. I'm sure Queensland will come at him with the same, but I think this time he'll have an answer. I think he'll be well prepared for it. So too will the Panthers. I saw a little bit of it against the Melbourne Storm the other night. Very subtly. The selections that Asai Yeo made and then how they responded after that. When Asai Yeo was bustled in the Origin, there was no plan B. Panthers have come up with a plan B for it, and in fact, it becomes their plan A. They actually let Asai Yeo make a different play and then come off the back of that to score their couple of tries against the Storm the other day, and they caught the Storm outnumbered and napping the whole time. So I'm going to go Panther, and I'm going to go Asai Yeo as the Clive Churchill medal winner. Okay,
there it is. Big day of action, of course, from Accor Stadium in Sydney. Now, I think I'm right in saying even Sports Sunday is out at Accor Stadium. That's 10 o'clock in the morning. We're there all day.
All day.
All day. Every last angle, every possible story dissected in depth here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. It'll be another
They're two good
wonderful
teams.
day.
Gee, they're two good teams, aren't
Are
they?
they what?
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Two very good teams. Thanks for another great year, Gus.
Thank you,
It's been
Mathew.
wonderful talking with you every Wednesday. Thanks to everyone that's been listening to us throughout the year. It's been very good fun. Enjoy Grand Final Day. May the best team win. And we will talk to you, I think, in 2024. Ta-da!
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
With the finals around the corner, NRL on 9 has you covered.
From match highlights, press conferences, and don't forget, Freddie in the 8.
Of course.
NRL on 9 has you covered for everything. One-stop shop.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a moment.